Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Om Sthapakaya Cha Dharmasya Sarvadharmaswarupine Sthapakaya Cha Dharmasya Sarvadharmaswarupine Avataravarishtaya Ramakrishna Te Namah. Asato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityorma mritangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Let us offer our salutations to Sri Ramakrishna, the embodiment of all religions, the Supreme God Incarnate. Let us pray to Him to lead us from the unreal to the real, to lead us from the darkness of ignorance to the light of knowledge, to lead us from death to immortality. We have been studying Gospel. Today's topic I have chosen, grand ideal of renunciation. Sri Ramakrishna is a master of renunciation, and Sri Sharada Devi also equally the master of renunciation. Swami Vivekananda also equally master of renunciation. So it is very evident the most important message of Sri Ramakrishna is that one should totally renounce everything for the sake of realizing the truth. And Sri Ramakrishna has given various instructions how to practice renunciation. In a way, people in the world are really practicing renunciation knowingly or unknowingly. Sri Ramakrishna has said in the Gospel, who can have the spiritual awakening? And Sri Ramakrishna replies, only he who has renounced his attachment to worldly things. If the sap of attachment is totally dried up in a man, the slightest suggestion kindles his spiritual emotion. Though you strike a wet match 1,000 times, it will not produce a spark. But if it is dried, the slightest rubbing will set it aflame. Again, Sri Ramakrishna tells, it is an account of the ego that one is not able to see God. In front of the door of God's mansion lies the stump of ego. One cannot enter the mansion without jumping over the stump. And Sri Ramakrishna explains it by a simile. There was once a man who had acquired the power to tame ghosts. One day, at his summons, a ghost appeared. The ghost said, "Now you have called me, tell me what you want me to do. The moment you cannot give me any work, I shall break your neck. The man had, of course, many things to accomplish. So he had the ghost do them all, one by one. At last, he could find nothing more for the ghost to do. Now, said the ghost, I am going to break your neck. Wait a minute, cried the man. I shall return presently. So the man ran to his teacher and begged him, Revered sir, I am in great danger. This is my trouble. And he told his teacher his trouble and asked, what shall I do now? The teacher was very wise. He said, do this, tell the ghost to straighten this kinky hair. The ghost devoted itself day and night to straightening the hair, but how could it make a kinky hair straight? The hair remained kinky. Likewise, the ego seems to vanish this moment, but it reappears the next. Unless one renounces the ego, one doesn't receive the grace of God. Suppose there is a feast in a house, and the master of the house puts a man in charge of the stores. As long as the man remains in the storeroom, the master doesn't go there. But when of his own will the man renounces the storeroom and goes away, then the master locks it and takes charge of it himself. Another example Sri Ramakrishna gives. A guardian is appointed only for a minor. A boy cannot safeguard his property, therefore the king assumes responsibility for him. God does not take over our responsibilities unless we renounce our ego. Once Lakshmi and Narayan were seated in Vaikuntha. When Narayan suddenly stood up, Lakshmi had been stroking his feet. She said, O Lord, where are you going? Narayan answered, one of my devotees is in great danger. I must save him. With these words, he went out. But he came back immediately. Lakshmi said, Lord, why have you returned so soon? Narayan smiled and said, the devotee was going along the road overwhelmed with love for me. Some washermen were drying clothes on the grass, and the devotee walked over the clothes. At this the washermen chased him and were going to beat him with their sticks. So I ran out to protect him. But why have you come back? Asked Lakshmi. Narayan laughed and said, I saw the devotee himself picking up a brick to throw at them. All laughed. So I came back. Again Sri Ramakrishna said, he said to Keshav Chandra Sen, a great Brahmo leader of the time, Sri Ramakrishna said to him, you must renounce your ego. Keshav replied, Sir, if I do, how can I keep my organization together? Sri Ramakrishna said to him, how slow you are to understand. I am not asking you to renounce the ripe ego. The ego that makes a man feel he is a servant of ego or his devotee. Give up the unripe ego, the ego that creates attachment to lust and gold. The ego that makes a man feel he is God's servant, his child, is a ripe ego. It doesn't harm one. So, how renunciation is very essential to get the awakening. There are various types of renunciation in every walk of life. the sacrifice of the parents for the sake of children. It is renunciation. Of the children for the sake of parents. Of the wife for the sake of the husband. And of the husband for the sake of wife. And so on. But these are considered natural. Everybody is doing that. What perplexes people, it seems, is the renunciation of the monks or the godmen who give up their all, their health, their hearth and home, their family and friends, their kith and kin, in the name of religion, and in search of what they call and believe in, God or truth. They think that there must have been some mishap or misunderstanding or frustration in life that has forced one to take to the life of renunciation. Maybe very often it is so. But genuine renunciation is something entirely different from this type of momentary fit of renunciation, which is termed in our scriptures as smashana vairagya. The feeling of renunciation that comes upon one when somebody very near and dear passes away all on a sudden, or some other extremely unbearable calamity strikes one, and everything seems lost and slipping away from under one's fingers. This sort of renunciation is no renunciation at all. It is a misnomer. The real renunciation is the one that is born of a real thirst for God, and not out of mere disgust for the world because of the many trials and tribulations in it. As Sri Ramakrishna says, renunciation doesn't mean simply dispassion for the world. It means dispassion for the world and also longing for God. A man may have everything he wants, he lacks nothing, yet he doesn't enjoy his possessions. He weeps for God alone. That is real renunciation. When that thirst or urge to realize God comes on someone, there is no stopping him from throwing off all other attachments and bondages, however precious and valuable they might have been previously. A classic example of this thirst for God and absolute renunciation is that of the gopis of Vrindavan. In one of the most stirring passages, the Bhagavatam describes the irresistible spell of the Lord's music on the gopis, which made them renounce their all then and there and run to him, their beloved Krishna, the Lord of Lords. Lord Krishna says, the Bhagavat, strikes a note on the flute, and as soon as the gopis of Vraja hear the divine melody calling them to the Lord's presence, they, whose minds had been enraptured by the divine beauty of Lord Krishna, madly rush to the Lord's presence, totally unaware of their surroundings and one another's existence even, leaving whatever they had been doing then and there. Some had been milking the cows, others were boiling the milk that had been milked, others were taking down the cooked rice from the oven, still others were serving food, some were feeding milk to the babies, others were looking after their husbands, others were themselves partaking of meals, yet others were busy anointing and decorating themselves. Some others were having their bath, and some were cleaning their houses, some were applying collyrium to their eyes. But all these people immediately stopped what they were doing as soon as they heard the Lord's call and left it in whatever stage it was and hurried to Lord Krishna's presence in great excitement with their dress and jewelry in great desire. They were dissuaded by their husbands, parents, brothers and relatives from proceeding towards the Lord, but they heeded not, completely lost as they were in the thought of their beloved deity and didn't turn back from their set purpose. Here we find the outcome of the spirit of renunciation and also the rationale of all acts of renunciation by the highest of monks and godmen. The renunciation of a really genuine monk or religious person is not the result of a negative attitude or pessimistic approach to life and its problems, nor is it an escape mechanism designed to avoid the troubles and difficulties of life. On the other hand, it is a positivistic approach to life and its problems and calls on humanity to see life in its totality and not in its truncated form as presented by the senses and the mind. It is an exhortation to people to face the problems of life boldly in a realistic manner with an awareness of its wholeness and infinitude, which is found only in God or the highest reality behind this apparent fragmentary universe. Swami Vivekananda characterized renunciation once as the love of death and went on to explain worldly people love life. The monk is to love death. Are we to commit suicide then? Far from it. For suicides are not lovers of death. What is love of death then? Swamiji explains it. We must die, that is certain. Let us die then for a good cause. Let all our actions, eating, drinking, everything that we do, tend towards the sacrifice of ourself. You nourish your body eating. What good is there in doing that if you do not hold it as a sacrifice to the well-being of others? You nourish your minds by reading books. There is no good in doing that unless you hold it also as a sacrifice to the whole world. For the whole world is one. You are rated a very insignificant part of it. And therefore it is right for you that you should serve your millions of brothers rather than aggrandize this little self. As the Gita says, Sarvatah panipadam tat sarvatoksha shiro mukam sarvatah shrutimaloke sarvamavritti tishtati. With hands and feet everywhere, with eyes, heads and mouths everywhere, with ears everywhere in the universe, that the Lord or God exists, pervading all. Thus we see that renunciation in its highest sense is not merely fleeing away from the world. It is only the ordinary monk that, on giving up the world, goes out into a forest or some secluded corner and then only is able to think of God. The real monk lives in the world even after renouncing it. He lives in the midst of the battle of life, in the whirl and madness of action, yet never losing sight of the goal, namely God, the never-changing center of his life and interests. He remains all the while, even under all circumstances, ever calm and unmoved, fastened firmly as his mind is to that center always, true to the message of the Ishavasya Upanishad, which in two memorable verses puts the true import of renunciation in its proper perspective. Ishavasya Upanishad, the shortest of the Upanishads, the first mantra, it tells, Ishavasyamidam sarvam yatkincha jagatyam jagat tena tektena bhunjitaha magrita kasya svidhanam. This entire universe, whatever there is in it moving, cover it all with the Lord, and then enjoy this world through renunciation of everything else. Do not covet the possessions of others, for there is no other. It is all He, the Lord. And again the Upanishad says in the next verse, Kurvanneva karmani jijivishe chatam samaha evan tvai nanyate tosti na karma lipyate nare. One should desire to live 100 years, an intensely active life, a life of dedication and service, saying the Lord in everything. This is the only way to remain unaffected by the unpleasant reactions of one's doings. So, renunciation is not mere abstinence from external contact with the world and its objects, as is generally understood. This is just the negative aspect of renunciation, known in Sanskrit as tyaga. But renunciation, as has been well brought out in the two passages of the Isha Upanishad, has a positive content known as yoga, which is twofold in its effect. One, seeing the Lord in everything, and two, serving Him in every being with all one's heart and soul. That is yoga. These two aspects of renunciation, the negative and the positive, namely tyaga and yoga, should never be thought of as two separate independent entities. They are not two separate independent entities. They are the obverse and the reverse of the same coin. One is a corollary of the other, and they go hand in hand, each being a complement of the other. In fact, one cannot be practiced satisfactorily without the other. Renunciation is the very basis of life. There can be no civilization, no culture, no advanced society worth speaking of without renunciation at the background somewhere. Everyone, even in the most primitive societies, is practicing renunciation in one form or other, and very intensely at times, but generally it is confined to one's own kith and kin, or to furtherance of some worldly object or other, money, pleasure, enjoyment, intellectual pursuits, artistic creations, scientific research, achievements in the field of sports, bringing up one's own children, or in search of some political or economic, social, the freedom of the country, or socialism or communism. Very often, it is amazing to see how much of a sacrifice and suffering and struggle people undergo for flimsy, trumpery objects of the world, for a clerkship, or a few pieces of coin and dress, for a bit of food and raiment, or for filthy lucre, as the Bible puts it. What the religions of the world tell us is, when you are willy-nilly undergoing so much suffering and sacrifice and practicing renunciation already for the sake of some fleeting pleasures of life, which is eluding your grasp all the time, why not do so voluntarily and with joy for the sake of the highest object in life, God, who is the source of all other joys and pleasures in life, who is the very abode of immortal bliss, whose very name is Chidananda, who is the reality of all of realities, present everywhere and in every being. The final renunciation of the monks or godmen is just the culmination, the extension to its logical conclusion of the renunciation that we find practiced unconsciously, though, and in fits and starts by the ordinary man of the world in his everyday life. The Sanskrit text, in one of the passages, it says, Tyajet ekam kulasyarthe, gramasyarthe kulam tyajet, gramam janapadasyarthe, atmarthe prithivim tyajet. One should give up one's own for the sake of the family, when it is a question of choosing between the person and the family. And so also one should give up one's own family for the sake of one's village for the sake of the country, and one's country for the sake of one's own self, or the highest reality behind oneself and the universe, that is God. What the sannyasin does when he renounces the world is, he renounces a smaller thing for a bigger thing. He only renounces a smaller world of family and friends, wife, husband, children or parents, whom he is serving devotedly, bound down by the attachment of blood relation, so that he may serve the larger family of the world. He does not hate them or the world. His love continues to be the same for those whom he has left, only it is not limited to them. It transcends all barriers of caste, creed, religion, nationality, family, relatives and friends, and brings within its compass the entire humanity. Shankaracharya tells in one of the verses, Mata cha Parvati Devi, Pita Devo Maheshwaraha, Bandavaha Shiva Bhaktascha, Swadesho Bhuvanatrayam. To the one who has renounced the world, the Lord is the Father. The Divine Mother is the Mother. Shiva is the Father. Parvati is the Mother. The devotees of the Lord are their relatives. And the whole world his own country. For such a one, there is no one's own or others. Everything is his own only. As a famous Sanskrit verse puts it, Ayam nijaha paro veti ganana laguchetasam udaracharitanantu vasudhaiva kutumbakam. Vasudhaiva kutumbakam. It's only the men of little or limited understanding or the mean-spirited that make all sorts of distinction between mine and thine. For the large-hearted, the entire universe is their own. So this is a grand ideal of renunciation that our scriptures as well as the scriptures of other religions bring before us. And what can compare with it? What greater joy, what greater pleasure, what greater enjoyment can there be than this life of renunciation and service? It is the only life worth living. Everything else is mere frothy existence, fraught with fear. As Bhartrahari, the famous prince poet, who renounced his kingdom to embrace the life of sannyas, says in his Vairagya Shatakam, a string of 100 verses on the glory of a life of renunciation. In one of the verses he says, Bhoge roga bhayam, kule chuti bhayam, vitte nrupalat bhayam, mane dainya bhayam, bale ripu bhayam, रूपे जराया भयम, शास्त्रे वादि भयम, गुणे खल भयम, काये कृतांताद भयम, सर्वं वस्तु भयान्वितम, भुवि नृणाम, वैराग्यमेवा भयम. In enjoyment, there is the fear of disease. In social position, there is the fear of a downfall. In wealth, there is the fear of hostile kings. In honor, there is the fear of humiliation. In power, there is the fear of the enmity. In beauty, there is the fear of old age. In scriptural erudition, there is the fear of opponents and rivals. In virtue, there is the fear of vilifiers. In body, there is the fear of death. Renunciation alone is devoid of all fear. Therefore, exhorts Jesus Christ in the Bible, seek ye first the kingdom of God, and everything else shall be added unto you. For what is a man profited if he shall gain the whole world and lose his own soul? Or what shall a man give in exchange for his soul? For whosoever will save his life shall lose it, but whosoever shall lose his life for my sake shall find it. So, grand ideal of renunciation is well established spiritual practice through which one gets awakening towards the reality, and that takes him to the abode of God. Page 798. Master said, the Brahmani of Kamarhati sees many visions. She lives all by herself in a lonely room in a garden on the bank of the Ganges. She spends her time in japa. Gopala sleeps with her. The master gives a start. It is not imagination, but fact. She saw that Gopala's palms were red. He walks with her. She suckles him at her breast. They talk to each other. When Narendra heard this story, he wept. Formerly, I too used to see many visions, but now in my ecstatic state, I don't see so many. I'm gradually getting over my feminine nature. I feel nowadays more like a man, therefore I control my emotion. I don't manifest it outwardly so much. The younger Narain has the nature of a man. Therefore, in meditation, his mind completely merges in the ideal. He doesn't show emotion. Nitya Gopal has a feminine nature. Therefore, while he is in a spiritual mood, his body becomes distorted and twisted. It becomes flushed. To Yam, Sri Ramakrishna said, well, people renounce grain by grain. But what a mood these youngsters are in. Binode said, I have to sleep. Binode said, I have to sleep with my wife. That makes me feel very bad. It is bad for an aspirant to sleep with his wife, whether he has intercourse with her or not. There is a friction of the body and also the physical warmth. What a state of Dvija is passing through. In my presence, he only sways his body and fixes his glance on me. Is that a trifling thing? If a man gathers his whole mind and fixes it on me, then indeed he achieves everything. Sri Ramakrishna is telling. But what am I? It is all he. I am the machine and he is its operator. It is God alone who exists in this, meaning his body. That is why so many people are feeling more and more attracted to it. A mere touch is enough to awaken their spirituality. This attraction, this pull, is the attraction of God and of none else. Tarak of Bulgaria was going home from Dakshineshwar. I clearly noticed that a flame-like thing came out of this, meaning his body, and followed him. A few days later, Tarak came back to Dakshineshwar. In a state of samadhi, he who dwells in this body placed his foot on Tarak's chest. Well, are there more youngsters like these? Yam said, Mohit is very nice. He came to you once or twice. He is studying enough books to pass 2 university examinations. He has great longing for God. Master said, that may be, but he doesn't belong to a high plane. His physical traits are not so good. He has a puggish face. But these other youngsters belong to a high plane. Many troubles and worries follow in the wake of a birth in a physical body. Further, if a person is cursed, he may have to be born 7 times. One must be very careful. One has to assume a human body if one cherishes the slightest desire. I shall stop here. Any question? All right. Chant the name of the Lord and his glory unceasingly, that the mirror of the heart may be wiped clean and quench that mighty forest fire, worldly lust, raging furiously within. O name, stream down in moonlight on the lotus heart, opening its cup to knowledge of thyself. O self, drowned deep in the waves of his bliss, tasting his nectar at every step, bathing in his name, that bath for weary souls. Various are thy names, O Lord. In each and every name thy power resides. No times are set, no rites are needful for chanting of thy name. So vast is thy mercy, how huge then is thy wretchedness, who find in this empty life and heart no devotion to thy name. O my mind, be humbler than a blade of grass. Be patient and forbearing like a tree. Take no honor to thyself, give honor to all. Chant unceasingly the name of the Lord. O Lord and soul of the universe, mine is no prayer for wealth retinue, the playthings of lust or the toys of fame. As many times as I may be reborn, grant me, O Lord, a steadfast love for thee. A drowning man in this world's fearful ocean is thy servant, O sweet one. In thy mercy consider him as dust beneath thy feet. Oh, how I long for the day When an instant separation from thee, O Lord, will be as 1,000 years, when my heart burns away with its desire, and the world without thee is a heartless void. Prostrate at thy feet let me be, in unwavering devotion, neither imploring the embrace of thine arms, nor bewailing the withdrawal of thy presence, though it tears my soul asunder. O thou who stillest the hearts of thy devotees, do with me what thou wilt, for thou art my heart's beloved, thou and thou alone. O Lord, lead us from the unreal to the real, lead us from darkness to light, and lead us from death to immortality. May all be free from dangers, may all realize what is good, may all be actuated by noble thoughts, may all rejoice everywhere, may all be happy, may all be free from disease, may all realize what is good, may none be subject to misery. May the wicked become virtuous, may the virtuous attain tranquility, may the tranquil be free from bonds, may the freed make others free. May good betide all people, may the sovereign righteously rule the earth, may all beings ever attain what is good, may the worlds be prosperous and happy. May the clouds pour rain in time, may the earth be blessed with crops, may all countries be freed from calamity, may holy men live without fear. May the Lord, the destroyer of sins, the presiding deity of all sacred works, be satisfied. For he being pleased, the whole universe becomes pleased. He being satisfied, the whole universe feels satisfied.